The mop squeaked softly against the marble floor of the lobby, its rhythm almost like a heartbeat in the silence of midnight. Armin bent down, wringing the last traces of water from the fibers, his hands cracked and raw from years of cleaning chemicals. He had worked this job for as long as his son could remember. The skyscraper glittered above the city, housing some of the most powerful business leaders in America. Yet for Armin, it was only a place where he pushed a mop, collected trash, and slipped quietly through corridors so polished they never seemed to belong to him. But tonight was different. His son, Elias, sat in the far corner, cross-legged with a notebook balanced on his knee. Elias wasn't supposed to be there, technically. The boy was just 15, but his father had no one to leave him with, no money for babysitters, no family nearby. Most nights, Elias stayed at home, but tonight he'd begged to come, saying he wanted to help. Armin had relented. Better here than alone in the dark apartment with the leaky faucet and the neighbors screaming through paper-thin walls. Elias scribbled something down, his lips moving as if he were reciting to himself. Every so often, he would pause, shake his head, and whisper another line under his breath in a language his father didn't recognize. Armin looked over, curious but too tired to ask. At that moment, voices echoed through the lobby. Armin straightened, gripping the mop like a shield. The late-night boardroom meeting was breaking up. Executives in dark suits filed out, their laughter bouncing sharply against the marble walls. At the center of the group was Eleanor Reeves, the CEO. Tall, sharp, impeccably dressed. Her heels clicked like a metronome of authority. Everyone else seemed to orbit her, their chuckles a little too loud, their nods a little too eager. Elias shrank slightly into his corner, but not out of fear or out of caution. He had seen these people before. Some of them ignored him, some sneered at his father, some pretended not to notice either of them at all. One of the executives spotted Elias with his notebook. "Hey, who's the kid?" he asked, his tone playful but edged with disdain. "My son," Armin replied softly. "He's just waiting for me to finish." Eleanor's gaze landed on Elias. Something about her expression was both curious and calculating. She took a step closer, her red lips curving in an amused smirk. "And what's your name?" "Elias," the boy said clearly, looking her in the eye. "That's quite formal," Eleanor replied. "Tell me, Elias, what are you scribbling in that notebook?" "Plans to escape this janitorial destiny of yours." Some of the executives chuckled. Elias didn't flinch. He closed the notebook gently and answered, "Languages." "Languages?" Eleanor tilted her head. "How many do you speak then?" "9, Elias said, without hesitation. The laughter grew louder this time, full and biting. One man nearly dropped his briefcase from the shake of his shoulders. 9 languages? At 15? What is this, a YouTube gimmick? Eleanor crossed her arms, savoring the boy's calm face. 9 languages, she repeated, mock dramatic. "And let me guess, you learned them all while sitting in this lobby watching your father mop floors?" "Yes," Elias replied, his voice steady. The silence that followed was almost shocking. Eleanor raised a brow, then burst into a sharp laugh. "Oh, darling, that's adorable." "Truly. 9 languages. Well, why don't you give us a demonstration?" Her tone was a challenge, a dare dressed as humor. The executives leaned in, eager for the show. Elias's father started to murmur, "Elias, you don't have toe." But Elias stood up, notebook in hand. He walked into the circle of suits as if it were the most natural thing in the world. He began to speak. First in Spanish, a fluid, fast, natural. The words rolled like water. Several executives blinked in surprise. Then French, a delicate, melodic, and flawless in accent. Then Arabic, a deep, resonant, commanding. One executive stiffened, another dropped his smile. Then Mandarin Chinese, precise and tonal. Then Russian, thick, guttural, almost fierce. He went on German, Hindi, Italian, Portuguese. Each flowed seamlessly, his face animated, his hands expressive. It was not the showy recitation of memorized phrases, it was the effortless rhythm of fluency. By the time Elias paused, The lobby was dead silent. Even Eleanor's confident smirk had faltered into something else, something harder to read. "Impressive trick," she said finally, though her voice carried less conviction than before. "But speaking doesn't mean understanding. Words are easy. Meaning is harder." Elias opened his notebook, flipped to a page, and set it on the nearest table. The handwriting filled the page in multiple scripts: Arabic, Cyrillic, Mandarin characters, Spanish cursive. Each was a translation of the same passage, a poem he had written himself. He slid it across the table to Eleanor. She scanned the words, frowning. Then she realized that he had translated his own writing 9 different ways, preserving rhythm, preserving beauty. The executives looked at one another. Some muttered under their breath. One even whispered, "Holy hell, a broken bar." But Elias wasn't done. He closed the notebook, then took a breath. "Sometimes," he said, "language is not just about words. It's about music." And before anyone could respond, Elias sat at the glossy black piano tucked into the corner of the lobby. Few noticed it most days, a piece of decor, more than an instrument. His fingers hovered for just a second, then fell. The notes rose like light itself, flooding the marble, the glass, the air. It was not just music. It was 9 languages woven into melodious Spanish passion, French elegance, Arabic soul, Chinese precision, Russian depth, German strength, Hindi warmth, Italian romance, Portuguese rhythm. He had taken the essence of each tongue and transformed it into music. The executives stood frozen, undone. Some felt tears rising, unexpected and uninvited. Eleanor watched, her mouth slightly open, her mask cracking. When the last note faded, Elias stood. He bowed his head, then simply said, "Languages are bridges. Music is the same. My father taught me that." Every head turned toward Armin, who still stood with the mop, staring at his son with damp eyes. The silence that followed was not the laughter of mockery. It was reverence. It was awe. And Eleanor Reeves, the CEO who had mocked him, was the one silenced most of all.